In an era where viral fame can appear and vanish within days, one young voice from London shattered expectations and silenced skeptics. At just 13 years old, Malakai Bayoh captivated the nation with a performance so pure, so hauntingly beautiful that even the ever-critical Simon Cowell couldn't help but slam the golden buzzer in awe. His rendition of Sarah Brightman's Pai Jesu didn't just echo through the Britain's Got Talent auditorium. It shook the internet, racing through social media feeds and racking up views in the tens of millions. But behind that calm composure on stage was a story far deeper than a fleeting moment of fame. Who was this soft-spoken prodigy with the voice of an angel? Where did he come from? And more importantly, where is he now? As reporters dug deeper, a portrait began to emerge. A young boy of Sierra Leonean descent, raised in the heart of London, with a voice forged in cathedral choirs and honed in the quiet discipline of classical music. But while his notes soared effortlessly on stage, behind the scenes, the pressure of sudden fame and the expectations of a nation started to build. Was Malakai ready for the spotlight? Was this just the beginning of a long and glorious career, or the start of a journey fraught with challenges few his age have ever had to face? As fans rallied and critics whispered, one thing became certain: Malakai Bayoh had arrived, and the world was watching. But as the cameras faded and the stage lights dimmed, a new question echoed louder than applause. What really happened after the golden buzzer moment? Long before the glitter of TV studios and the roar of standing ovations, Malakai Bayoh was simply a quiet schoolboy navigating the bustling streets of London. Born in 2010 to parents who had emigrated from Sierra Leone in search of a better life, Malakai's roots run deep with resilience, culture, and a strong sense of purpose. While much of his family background remains under wraps, perhaps intentionally to shield him from the intrusive glare of fame, it's known that his mother and sister have played a pivotal role in shaping his musical journey. His father's identity and his parents' professions are still undisclosed, leaving fans speculating about the family that raised such an extraordinary talent. But what we do know is this: Malakai's upbringing was far from ordinary. Encouraged by his mother, he began singing at the age of 7, joining the local choir and immersing himself in the sacred sounds of classical and religious music. He currently attends the prestigious Cardinal Vaughan Memorial School, where he continues to study while balancing a rising music career. Under the mentorship of Scott Price and the choral group Schola Cantorum, Malakai's voice matured beyond his years, earning him solo spots that would later catapult him into national fame. Despite his reserved nature in interviews, his onstage presence speaks volumes about the discipline, humility, and quiet confidence instilled in him at home and in school. It's this dual life, humble student by day, powerhouse vocalist by night, that makes Malakai Bayoh such a fascinating figure. But while the nation applauded his gift, many still wondered, was his rise to fame just a fluke, or the product of something far greater? Before the Britain's Got Talent stage ever knew his name, Malakai Bayoh had already sent shockwaves through the classical music world with one unforgettable performance, a duet that turned into a viral sensation. It was Christmas season when he stood beside legendary British singer and broadcaster Aled Jones to perform the timeless carol, "Oh Holy Night." For many, it was just another holiday video, but the moment Malakai opened his mouth and let that crystalline voice fill the cathedral, something clicked. The internet lit up. Within days, the performance had garnered millions of views across platforms, soaring past 25 million on YouTube alone. Viewers from every corner of the globe were asking the same thing: who is this boy? And how could someone so young sing with such emotion, such poise, such command? The clip wasn't just beautiful, it was extraordinary, not only for its musical quality, but for the raw sense of serenity and reverence that Malakai brought to the piece. It was a moment that felt sacred, like time had frozen. But as with every viral moment, attention came fast, and with it, pressure. Critics began analyzing his tone, his range, his phrasing. Some questioned whether this young singer could sustain such purity under the weight of public scrutiny. But if Malakai was affected, he didn't show it. He returned to his quiet routine, school, choir, rehearsals, while the world buzzed around him. What no one knew was that this performance was just the beginning. Behind the scenes, doors were opening, invitations were sent, rehearsals were booked, and before long, Malakai would be standing on one of the most coveted stages in British entertainment, poised to deliver yet another unforgettable moment. But the question lingered: could he turn a viral moment into lasting greatness? For most 13-year-olds, a school performance might be the peak of their year, but for Malakai Bayoh, the stakes were dramatically higher. By late 2022, fresh off his viral success, Malakai stepped into the revered halls of the Royal Opera House to make his operatic debut. Taking on the role of Oberto in Handel's Alcina, he wasn't just performing, he was making a statement. The opera world, often known for its gatekeeping and grueling standards, witnessed something remarkable. A young boy holding his own in one of the most demanding and prestigious musical arenas in the world. But Malakai wasn't done. Just months later, in April 2023, he walked onto the grand stage of the Royal Albert Hall for classic FM Live solo. With nerves of steel and a voice that seemed to float effortlessly through the air, he delivered a performance of Mozart's Alleluia and Handel's Lasciaci Pianga that left the audience breathless. And once again, the standing ovation wasn't polite, it was thunderous. Critics who had once labeled him a novelty act began to reconsider. Was this just a talented boy or a prodigy in the making? With each appearance, Malakai seemed to leap beyond the boundaries of his age, embracing roles and responsibilities usually reserved for seasoned professionals. And yet, through it all, he remained strikingly grounded, quiet in interviews, humble in demeanor, and entirely focused on the music. These weren't the performances of a child star chasing the limelight. They were the marks of an artist being slowly, deliberately shaped by institutions that recognized his potential. But the real test of his rising fame was yet to come. A television stage where scrutiny, spectacle, and millions of live viewers awaited. When Malakai Bayoh walked onto the Britain's Got Talent stage, many in the audience likely expected yet another sweet, nervous youngster hoping to charm the judges with a heartfelt ballad. But what followed was nothing short of breathtaking. Standing tall yet composed, the 13-year-old chose a piece few would dare attempt, Pai Jesu by Sarah Brightman, a soaring, sacred melody that requires near-perfect control. From the first note, silence swept across the theater. Then came the stunned expressions, the misty eyes, and before the final note could even fade, a moment of television history. Simon Cowell's hand slammed down on the golden buzzer. Gold confetti erupted across the stage as Malakai stood motionless, stunned, while the judges rose to their feet. Simon, known for his ruthless honesty, later said it was one of the most beautiful performances he'd ever seen on the show. Amanda Holden was visibly emotional, calling his voice divine. Bruno Tonioli praised the purity and bravery of the song choice, while Alicia Dixon called him a gift from God. But this wasn't just a feel-good moment, it was a seismic shift. That night, millions watched a young boy elevate a televised talent show into something almost spiritual. Backstage, his mother and sister, who had quietly stood by him through years of practice and discipline, held back tears of pride. But behind the glitz of the golden buzzer and the rush of overnight fame, a more intense journey was beginning. Media requests poured in. Interviews, rehearsals, meetings. For a boy whose life had revolved around school books and choir rehearsals, this new reality was dizzying. Would he be able to maintain the grace and excellence that brought him this far? Or would the pressure of a national spotlight prove too heavy for someone so young? As Malakai advanced to the semifinals, one thing was clear. This was no longer just a competition. It was the shaping of a legacy. As Britain's Got Talent marched towards climactic finale, expectations for Malakai Bayoh had skyrocketed. After receiving the golden buzzer, the young vocalist had already won the hearts of millions, but in the semifinals, he proved it wasn't a fluke. Taking the stage once more, Malakai chose Puccini's timeless O mio babbino caro, a piece both revered and feared for its technical challenges. Dressed sharply and exuding a quiet confidence, he let his voice rise and fall with emotion so precise it felt effortless. The audience barely breathed, and when he finished, the theater erupted. Judges praised not just his technique, but his soulfulness, his ability to make the complex feel intimate. That was absolutely beautiful from start to finish, said Amanda Holden. You've got guts to come out here and sing that, added Simon Cowell, visibly impressed. And yet, even with the performance being hailed as one of the season's best, Malakai didn't take home the trophy. On the night of the grand finale, he stood among the top contenders and ultimately secured fourth place. To many, this was a shock. Social media lit up with reactions, some celebrating the diversity of talent that made it to the end, others questioning whether the voting system had overlooked the sheer vocal mastery Malakai displayed. But if he was disappointed, he didn't show it. With the poise of someone far beyond his years, Malakai smiled, thanked the judges, and bowed with grace. What the public didn't see was what happened after the cameras stopped rolling. The private embrace with his family. The quiet backstage moments where pressure gave way to peace. For Malakai, the finale wasn't an ending, it was an affirmation. He had stood on one of the biggest stages in the world, delivered under pressure, and earned respect not just as a child prodigy, but as a legitimate artist. And while the trophy went to someone else, the lasting impression of Malakai Bayoh's voice was something no vote could ever diminish. Just weeks after the confetti had settled and the spotlight of Britain's Got Talent dimmed, Malakai Bayoh's career took a stunning turn, one that most artists twice his age only dream of. In June 2023, he inked a recording deal with none other than Universal Music, officially stepping into the professional music industry as more than just a TV sensation. The ink had barely dried before his debut album, Golden, was announced. And true to its name, the project gleamed with ambition, soul, and unmistakable talent. The album, released under Universal Classics and jazz in collaboration with Classic FM, featured contributions from musical titans such as Sir Carl Jenkins and Andrew Lloyd Webber, an almost unheard of feat for a teenager still balancing school exams. From the moment Golden dropped, it made waves. It debuted at #1 on the official classical albums chart, an instant validation that Malakai's fame wasn't fleeting, it was evolving. But it didn't stop there. The album crossed over into the Scottish albums chart, peaking at #23, marking Malakai as not only a classical phenomenon, but a crossover talent capable of capturing hearts far beyond opera houses and competition stages. Critics praise his vocal maturity, control, and emotional depth, traits that made the album feel less like a debut and more like the work of an artist who had spent a decade refining his craft. Fans celebrated the blend of familiar classics and fresh interpretations, all wrapped in Malakai's signature sound, clear, haunting, and brimming with feeling. But amid the whirlwind of press and praise, Malakai stayed grounded. He continued attending school, staying close to his family, and letting the music do most of the talking. As the industry watched with growing curiosity, one thing became clear. Malakai Bayoh wasn't just another talent show finalist. He was becoming a voice that would define the next generation of classical crossover artists. Just as the classical music world was adjusting to the phenomenon that is Malakai Bayoh, news broke that hinted at yet another major evolution in his already extraordinary career. His voice would soon be heard not just in concert halls or albums, but on screens around the world. In a move that took many by surprise, Malakai was confirmed as part of the soundtrack for Maestro, an upcoming Netflix film that explores the life and legacy of legendary conductor and composer Leonard Bernstein. While details about his specific contribution remain tightly guarded, insiders suggest that his voice will appear in a key emotional sequence, further solidifying his position as a go-to talent for projects requiring emotional gravity and technical precision. For Malakai, this crossover into the cinematic world represents more than just another career milestone. It marks his entry into a realm where music meets mass media, where soundtracks become cultural memory, and where voices become immortalized. It's a space where many classical artists struggle to find relevance, yet Malakai is entering effortlessly and at a remarkably young age. For Netflix, it's a strategic pairing, combining cinematic storytelling with a voice that has captured millions. For Malakai, it's a signal that his artistry is no longer confined to stages or competitions. It's transcending borders, mediums, and expectations. Industry analysts speculate this could lead to further collaborations, perhaps even voice acting roles or musical features in future streaming projects. And with the growing appetite for meaningful, emotionally resonant content, Malakai's voice could very well become a staple in the background of powerful moments on screen. As viewers await Maestro's release, the anticipation isn't just about the film. It's about hearing how Malakai Bayoh will once again leave his mark, this time in the hushed silence of a movie theater, where his voice will echo not with applause, but with awe. While the spotlight has often focused on Malakai Bayoh's angelic voice and meteoric rise, the foundation beneath that success is quietly powerful. A devoted family that has walked with him every step of the way. Throughout his journey, from school choirs to viral performances and sold-out venues, two figures have remained constant by his side. his mother, and older sister. At Britain's Got Talent, they were visibly present, standing just off stage with hands clasped and tears brimming as he delivered one powerful note after another. They weren't just supportive relatives, they were his emotional anchor, his silent strength amid the chaos of cameras, interviews, and the roar of fame. Yet despite their public appearances, much about Malakai's family remains a mystery. Their names, professions, and personal lives are largely kept out of the spotlight. A deliberate move, perhaps, to preserve a sense of normalcy in a life that has become anything but. What is clear, however, is the influence they've had on shaping his path. It was his mother who first urged him to join a choir at age 7, planting the seed that would grow into an astonishing career. It's likely her insistence on discipline, humility, and faith that grounds Malakai even as the world tries to lift him into celebrity status. His sister, meanwhile, appears to be his biggest fan and emotional guardian, offering encouragement with a smile, a hug, or a few quiet words before each performance. In an industry that often isolates young stars or rushes them into adulthood, Malakai's story is different. He's not being propelled by fame-hungry handlers or PR machines. He's being held up by a family that sees music not as a means to fortune, but as a gift to be nurtured with care. And perhaps that's why his presence on stage feels so honest, so untouched by ego. Behind every note he sings is the echo of love, tradition, and a belief in something greater than applause. With a golden buzzer under his belt, a #1 classical album, and a voice set to grace the soundtrack of a Netflix film, the question on everyone's mind is simple. What's next for Malakai Bayoh? At just 13, his path is wide open, but the road ahead is far from predictable. Industry insiders are already speculating about his next move. Will he remain in the classical lane, becoming the next global crossover icon like Andrea Bocelli or Josh Groban? Or will he take a bold step into contemporary or even pop? Guided by producers eager to reshape his sound for wider appeal? There's talk still unconfirmed that European tours are being sketched out, potentially bringing Malakai to world stages in Paris, Vienna, and Milan. Some fans even whisper about the possibility of him representing the UK in international showcases, maybe even Eurovision in a special non-competing appearance. And then there's the buzz around future collaborations. With Sir Carl Jenkins and Andrew Lloyd Webber already in his corner, who else might come knocking? Rumors suggest that a few notable film composers have expressed interest in working with him, names that have scored major Hollywood hits. But amid all the chatter, one thing stands out. Malakai is still just a teenager. His greatest challenge now may not be hitting the right notes, but navigating fame while holding on to the core that made him so magnetic in the first place: his humility, his sincerity, and his faith. With school still a priority and his family fiercely protective, the next chapter of his life will be written carefully, not hurriedly. And perhaps that's what makes this story so captivating. It's not just about a boy with a rare voice. It's about a young soul choosing how to use that voice in a world eager to claim it. Whatever path he takes, one thing's certain: Malakai Bayoh isn't just part of Britain's Got